ladies and gentlemen, choosing to be introduced as a team.
Nothing in this sport can be accomplished without incredible teammates and coaches. And, I've just been blessed for 22 years to be with some amazing people. And, it's been my home for 20 years. So I had the best memories. My kids were born here. I'll be part of this community for a long time. I'm not tearing up. I already went through all that. So.
Their team as an NFL dynasty. Going back again to Moss. Touchdown. He's intercepted at the goal line. They have completed the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history.
This is your 6th championship in the last 18 years.
And this team is world champions forever. You can't take it away from us. So my parents back home in San Mateo, my sisters, my wife, my kids, I love you guys.
Oh, Tom did it. He said thank you to New England, and now we can all of us can rest easier. This is Interesting to See, your daily sports podcast about news, narratives, takes, and gambling. A bit of a quick one today because, I'll be honest with you, it's a weirdly slow news day. Got some NFL coach hirings, but the NHL is on break. The NFL has a bye week before the Super Bowl. I guess we could talk about the Super Bowl at some point, but there's next week to do all of that. The NBA is on a collision course for its All-Star break. The Olympics have started, and no one really cares that much because China is making it weird. It's quite the day. It's quite the day. But we're going to start today with the disaster that is Auburn football. So Auburn, God, how do I say this? So they hired a head coach, Brian Harsin, who was a nightmare and so far after 1 year, and now let's get this right, hired an offensive coordinator in the offseason, and that guy quit before literally doing anything. He has already quit. He's already quit. So pay attention to this Auburn thing. Now there's allegations he's having inappropriate relations with an assistant on his staff. So he's considering resigning. Maybe we'll do a whole Auburn football thing. I've been trying to follow this story, but man, it's a mess. He's basically a terrible football coach and possibly just a bad kind of loser. Speaking of college football coaching, Lane Kiffin has been calling out the Texas A&M Aggies for the top recruiting class in the country, which is just hilarious. And people have been noticing that they had the best recruiting class in the country for the first time now that name, image, and likeness money has been in the sport. So Lane has taken to Twitter to point this out, which I find absolutely hilarious. In 2018, the Texas A&M Aggies, 0 5-star recruits. 2019, 2 5-star recruits. 2020, 2 5-star recruits. 2021, 1 5-star recruit. Name, image, and likeness are introduced in 2022. 7 5-star recruits in the mathematically highest rated class in the history of college football. So, Lane Kiffin pointed that out, which was objectively hilarious. We can all agree on that. Let's go to the NFL, where we've got more statements. As Brian Flores thinks it's going to dominate the news this Super Bowl week. The Giants and the Broncos, John Elway issuing statements of their own. To combat the allegations, John Elway went the sad for me, how dare you route. He said, quote, I was not planning to respond, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so remember, Brian Flores was alleging that he looked hungover, and he was an hour late. Quote, for Brian to make an assumption about my appearance and state of mind early that morning was subjective, hurtful, and just plain wrong. If I appeared, quote, disheveled, as he claimed, it was because we had flown in during the middle of the night immediately following another interview in Denver, and we're going only on a few hours sleep to meet the only window he provided us. I interviewed Brian in good faith, giving him the same consideration and opportunity as every other candidate for our coaching position in 2019. Yeah, calling out someone for looking hungover in a professional setting is not a great move. But the rest of this lawsuit definitely holds merit. The Lions are being included in this, but not for the Jim Caldwell stuff, because after firing Jim Caldwell, they interviewed their own defensive coordinator for the job, Terrell Austin, who's claiming that interview was a sham interview. And because the The general manager was Bob Quinn from New England, and Matt Patricia was hired from New England. It's safe to say that was indeed a sham interview. The statement from the Giants on the whole Bill Belichick thing is great. So they said Brian Daboll was the best guy for the job, et cetera, et cetera. Let's get to the Belichick thing. Quote, in addition, Mr. Belichick does not speak for and has no affiliation with the Giants. Mr. Belichick's text exchange provides no insight into what actually transpired during our head coaching search. It has been well documented how much research and due diligence we did on Mr. Flores in related to his candidacy. So there's been some galaxy brain stuff going on with Bill Belichick that perhaps he did this fake text thing on purpose to blow the lid on this story. He is smart enough to do that, and he is old enough to make it look like he didn't do that. Like it was a genuine mistake. We all agree, right? He's absolutely capable of doing both of those things, which you got to love about him. Is he playing chess or is he barely playing Parcheesi? Who's to say? Who's to say? Other news, Doug Peterson, the former Super Bowl champion head coach of the Philly Eagles with Nick Foles and all those guys, has been named the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So now we have only a couple openings left. All of the guys that have been hired are white, which is something that we're going to be talking about. The Bears hired Matt Eberflus. They're the organization that deserves the most race scrutiny, by the way. Perhaps we'll do a whole thing on that one day. The Bears hired Matt Eberflus, defensive coordinator for the Colts. The Broncos hired Nathaniel Hackett, offensive coordinator for the Packers. The Giants hired Brian Daboll, offensive coordinator for the Bills. The Raiders hired Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator for the Patriots. The Vikings hired Kevin O'Connell, offensive coordinator for the Rams. And the Jaguars hired Doug Peterson, former head coach of your Philadelphia Eagles. There are 3 positions left, the Dolphins, Saints, and Texans. Apparently, Byron Leftwich late last night or earlier yesterday, sometime yesterday, pulled his name out of consideration for the Jaguars job. Remember, he famously said, I don't want to work with Trent Baalke, the GM, who nobody wants to work with. He was a disaster in San Francisco. And if you're like, hey, what happened to Harbaugh in San Francisco? Couldn't get along with anybody. And also Trent Baalke pushed him out. That was the other part of that you can look into. Last year, on the racial diversity hiring front, the Texans bit the bullet and hired a coach for 2 years. Normally, coaches get a minimum of 4 years guaranteed money. But apparently, last year with David Culley, the head coach of the Texans, he only got 2 years of fully guaranteed money. So he's like, hey, we're going to hire this black guy so that everybody will get off the NFL's ass about hiring a black guy, and we're going to fire you because you're just here to tank. And he coached his ass off. They won 4 games. They were really annoying football team to deal with. Not only that, but Davis Mills looked like he's the best rookie quarterback in this draft class. Kind of by far. We talked about that quite a bit. So David Culley, he was is someone going to make a token hire this year, or there's going to be a genuine hire? We shall see. The Saints are interested in having a conversation with Eric Bieniemy. He will be interviewing for the Saints job. The front runner, everyone knows, for that position is the defensive coordinator that's in-house. Oh, wow, I'm actually blanking on his name. He's got a really something name. I can usually remember this shit on the top of my head. Somebody in YouTube will get mad at me. I talk about him all the time. I talked about him yesterday. Oh, it's going to piss me off. Should I Google it or should I just let it marinate for a second? I'll let it marinate. We'll see if we can figure out the Saints defensive coordinator's name. The Lions defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, was a defensive backs coach in New Orleans for a while. He is also considered a front runner for that job. And now that Byron Leftwich is available, the Saints got to break it down. They have no money. The draft situation for them is not great. Everybody's injured. A lot of contract problems coming up, and they have no coach. I mean, they should probably just break it down and start over and see what's going on. So maybe just take this whole thing from the beginning. We shall see. For the Texans, who the hell knows? Apparently, Brian Flores is being considered as a finalist for that job. And it makes sense. It wouldn't be a token hire if they hired him. It'd be probably a really good hire for them. They did Patriot Way stuff with Bill O'Brien, and it worked out really well until it didn't. As soon as Bill O'Brien got control of the roster, that situation in Houston was a mess. But as a coach, he was really good. They won the division multiple times. They had Deshaun Watson. They developed players. It was really good. It went bad, and I don't think anybody had fun there. But it was pretty successful, all things considered. And they have a Patriots brain trust in place. Maybe Deshaun Watson. Remember, Deshaun Watson was going to play for the Dolphins. Maybe him and Flores want to do it in Houston. So Brian Flores could very well be hired in Houston. But for right now, all of the guys that have been hired are, of course, white. And that's like the least shocking thing of all time. So we'll see. We shall see how this suit pans out. But the Belichick texts are pretty damning. I think my personal guess is that this is going to be a massive settlement of tens of millions of dollars. The National Basketball Association unveiled a All-Star Game MVP trophy and named it after Kobe Bryant for the Kobe Bryant All-Star Game. The game is going to be held in Cleveland. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we'll share it. Hold on, put it on the screen real quick. Let's zoom in a little. Yeah, I don't love it. And I don't know. I think he deserved better. I kind of was into the idea of redoing the NBA logo after him. The Jerry West thing has been there for a while, and you could do the Kobe dunk thing. But I guess this counts as a way to remember him. I don't know. It seems like it's a nice thing, but it's the NBA All-Star MVP is such a who gives a shit award. Even among NBA, like hardcore NBA fans, and I'm not a hardcore NBA fan. I'm definitely a Sixers fan, and I follow the sport, but damn, I don't know. Doesn't seem like enough for me. Okay, we'll round out some NBA scores for you in case you didn't pay attention. The scores are the Raptors beat the Bulls in overtime. Good for them. The Pistons are in a multi-year tank. The Clippers beat the Lakers. Shut up. No way. Oh, my God. The Lakers are ass. The Clippers are the A seed. The Lakers are right. As of right now, if they'd have won that game, would that have helped? Not really. They're the 9th seed. They should trade LeBron. He wouldn't trade himself, though. He's obviously the GM of that team. Take it back to the conference championships over the weekend, and let's listen to what happened on that disaster from the Kansas City Chiefs at the end of the first half, and they had 5 seconds left, and the idea is you run one more play. If it's not there, you throw the ball away. You kick the field goal. And then this happened. We'll get you out of here on this. I'll be back and better than ever on Monday. We're going to start our gambling preview, props, specials, all that shit, and the NHL will come back from its break. The Olympics will actually be interesting at that point. Next week's going to be a great sports week. And let's listen to what happened with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Let me know how much you hate me in the comments. Goodbye.
Left in the half from the Cincinnati 1.
They're going to kick the field goal? I think they are. And I guess they're going to go one more snap.
Mahomes throws. Hill catches at the 6 and gets tackled inbounds, and the clock runs out. And the Bengals dodge a bullet.
The Chiefs get to the 1 and do not get any points out of the last drive.